welcome to the Kink Perspective. My name is Chris. I'm a psychotherapist and consultant. Today's show is the year-end show. It's the season end show. It's the wrap. This has been a really exciting year for me doing the Kink Perspective. I've had a lot more guests on the show this year, some missed opportunities with some other guests that I'd like to have on the show. But I really want to take time and kind of reflect back on the growth here over this past year of the show. To date, there's 100 episodes out now. It's just so much content that I've been happy to share with all of you. It's just been a really wonderful passion project of mine to kind of go out into the community, talk about things that we're facing, talk about things that we're dealing with, that we're experiencing, that we're curious about. And I kind of want to just talk a little bit about how, I'm really thankful for the amount of people that listen to the show. I want to kind of go through a couple of the highlights I've had 600% growth in my listeners and over 600% growth in how many people are streaming me. I've had a 400% growth in my followers and quite a lot more as far as how much content I've created this year. This year alone, I've done 1,500 minutes worth of content for you all to sit back and listen. I discovered something interesting that a lot of you first discovered me on my season 2 episode 16, which was BDSM and praise kink. And that's what really drew in a lot of people, and I'm really happy that episode resonated for a lot of people. It covers a lot of the things that we talk about or potentially even experience within the lifestyle itself. And that's something important that we don't really sometimes think about, that what draws people in and what do we want to hear, or are we really based around the lifestyle? And that's really what the intention of doing this was. It's been an unbelievable year for me. To date, I'm being streamed in 81 countries, I think I just read. I'm humbled at this by the thousands of streams that I've had, that 16,000 downloads and streams of all kinds, with closing in on 1,000 followers. It makes what I do, it makes me thankful, because that means that there's something that I'm saying that people want to hear, and that makes me want to keep doing it and moving forward. I know a lot of podcasts, especially when we get into the lifestyle, it's quite redundant. We're having the same people on, we're talking about the same subjects. And I do know, and I realize that not every show that I do resonates with every person, and that's fine. Like, I know the one like the DIE philosophy, diversity, inclusion, and equity, and how that's permeated. Not everybody wants to hear that, and that's fine. We're all not going to have everything that we like all the time, and there's nothing wrong with all of that. I want to thank a lot of my guests that have been here. First, in part, I didn't get to finish this year the second part of my interview with Miss Kitten. We are going to finish up our consent framework discussion in the new year. Samoa Princess has reached out to me with a really fascinating topic for the new year about mentors and mentorship and how that takes flight. I'm looking at wanting to do some more interviews this year, so I really would love to know what type of subjects are really moving you about the lifestyle. Things that maybe I didn't cover enough or haven't covered, and something you want maybe for me to expand on. I'm thankful for the community, because without the community, without people listening here, my show doesn't exist. And look, I'm not charging anything for it. I do this totally because I want to give back to the community that I've been a part of for such a long part of my life. In the new year, I do have a new treat coming for you all. I've been kind of toying with the idea of some things, and it's going to take shape. Once I have that laid out, it's going to be a part of the kink perspective. Yes, that's going to be something that's going to be sub-based, but the content is going to be considerably different, but it's going to be the lifestyle, some true crime, and how it even touches base with one of the larger platforms, which is FetLife, because there's some big connections to a lot of these things. And I think it's important for us to discuss and learn about and understand and realize that things that go on inside of our world that aren't always the best thing. And there's a lot there that I want to talk about. There's a lot of people, and I want to bring that to it. I'm really amazed by the people who sat down with me and have devoted their time, and they're discussing their passions and what moves them. Mr. Tinkertrain and Brookish, Bound Ashley, even my first interviewees, Sovereign Kane and Luna Lux. All of these people that have been a part of this journey with me have really helped inspire other writings that I do about the lifestyle. They raise a lot more questions, and it's what we do in psychology, where we discuss things that are going on and look at something in a new light, and then we write a paper about it. Well, in this case, it's a lot of these things that I write a lot more questions about, because these things really kind of spur my mind, and I want to know how it works and find out if there's any way I can apply some research that is out there to the very things that we face inside of the lifestyle. And it really has. It's really been a hell of a journey this year. I'm really happy that putting out for everything that it's been met with a wonderful response. I've done some informative things. One thing that when I look back on, do I have a favorite episode? It was a question I got from some people. I don't. Everything I do, it's passion related for me, and I try to, in the limited amount of time I want to talk, because I know what the average attention span is when we're listening to podcasts and not. And obviously, I'm not interviewing somebody all the time, so I try to keep, when I'm talking like this, just to you all, I try to keep it down to less than 30 minutes. And for the most part, I'm pretty good about that. But I really don't have a favorite episode. I believe in everything that I've talked about. And sometimes, I may not get everything right. I may not get all the information in there. I may have even things that, I feel passionately about. But that's part of our world, that we are allowed to have these discussions and views and maybe even argue a point and why, and then walk away. The one thing that binds all of us here is the love of the lifestyle. And I really appreciate the fact that there is so much that this lifestyle gives to so many of us. And without that, it would be a very small and confined community. We would probably be all separated. The rope people in one corner, and the sadists, and then the daddies, and we would all be out on our own. We wouldn't be what we are today, especially in the areas around the world that we're involved in, from the darkest corners in Brussels to the bright lights of New York to the, exciting arenas of Perth or Melbourne, to anywhere in the world. We wouldn't have the love that we do for the lifestyle. And I know there's still communities out there. Some listeners that had reached out to me from India, and I know their community is growing, and I understand that there's things that are a little bit more repressed than other places in the world. But I'm glad this scene is going forward. I'm glad they're making some of the headway that they're doing. Because it's not just a journey for one of us. These stories, the things that we talk about, the things that I talk about or I share with a guest, become journeys for all of us. Because then we can understand, in part, we're not alone, inside of this lifestyle. There's other people that are going through things that are really, they're cracking into their first whip for the first time, or they're going to their first class, and we can remember what it was like for us. I'm still strongly passionate about, obviously, about mental health, of course, being my profession. Um, the community response, I want to say thank you for this year for Christmas. As to date, I've been able to help. I put out some time. If a lot of I say it at the beginning of the show, if you don't know, but I'm a therapist, so I offered some free sessions. I ended up doing 40 hours worth of work, so I split it all into 30-minute increments, and I've been able to help 40 veterans. And I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for the community. And that's been really, really important to me. Because, I have a choice to who I'm going to work with in and around the community, and like anybody does. And they are an affected group of service people around the world that in many places get left behind, and even in the air for 30 minutes. I mean, I wish it could be more, but it's better than nothing. And I'm touched by all of these stories and how much I've been able to help. And I'm hoping next year I can bring somebody else on board, help me carry the load, and we can do it even more. But yeah, it's for me, this is just it's blown my mind how much all of you like the show, how much you listen, how much it must resonate. And I'm just want you to know I'm really appreciative of that fact. I was blown away when I got the Wrap this year. If you're not familiar with that, Spotify does this, which is where I do my main hosting through. They send you your entire breakdown of your podcast for the year and what it's like. And I'm going to share some of those images with this on a post when I do it on social media. But it blew me away seeing the numbers and what people really liked, and how some people really found parts of the show that resonated with them. When I found out that the Praise Kink was the number one streamed episode, I was blown away, because it was just something I picked up to do for that week. I was just looking, and that's one question I get a lot. How do I choose what I'm going to talk about? Sometimes I know I have an entire list of things that I want to go through, and I'm feeling a particular subject. Other times when I'm sitting here and I'm going, something happens in the community, consent violations, people's personal opinions. There are certain topics I haven't touched yet. I don't know if I'm going to wade into them. There is things going on that are kind of outside of my scope, and I don't feel like necessarily diving into some of those areas. I mean, if they end up becoming in my direct path, then I guess I'll address them when they arrive. In the new year, like I said, I'm going to be bringing in some different some different interviews. I'm going to be sitting down with someone who's going to talk about their journey of a transition, all the way through, from the beginning of when they discovered they were transgender all the way through their surgery, and how it's affected their life, and how they just want to be, it's affected their life within the community and where they live in the world, and how impactful that is. And it's a moving story. There's going to be more, as much as I can do in my capacity and supporting this. I'm looking at other things that I think are really starting to. I know sometimes I get more into the relationships, but I want to start looking at, how maybe how our lives inside of BDSM, for those of us that have children, how do we cross that bridge? And I think I'm going to be looking at maybe bringing a parents group on that are involved in the community, and find out that, and get some feedback from people that are really, that how much that impacts them or may impacts their relationships, and that, can help others globally to have conversations, right? Because we're all about right now wanting to have conversations that might be tough, and so might be easier to hear from others. So I'm going to keep doing my best here, and I appreciate all of the support. So I have an update on my book. So I know it's been like, it hasn't been quite a year it's been out. I do appreciate that. Um, that was another labor of love. I am trying to finish the edit. It's coming into Christmas time. I'm going to be taking a little bit of time off since this is the last episode for the year. I'll probably come back in January and fire back up again. But I'm going to try to finish up the edit. I'm going to get the final approval on it and get out the hard copy. I'll do some financial moving around and lower the cost of some things because I know some people want it and they can't afford it. I totally understand that. And yeah, just keep learning more and having more questions about our community and how we can make it better. Or just in fact that we're even having a conversation in the first place and that we're really starting to broach things that do impact us inside of this life. And not just to listen to people that are writing things, that are telling you things you want to hear just so you click on their stuff. Because that's one thing that I do see a lot on social media, and it's something I'm holding on to right now. I have a major post about like the matriarchy and that's got to come out, or how the internet and global connectivity has it really helped our community or has it really diminished it because we're looking at others abroad, we're not focusing on ourselves. All of these things that I want to get to in time. Sometimes there's not enough time. I know there's been some weeks I put out like 3 episodes. That's just because I'm sitting on so much stuff that I've got to get it out there, and I want you all to listen, and I want to get feedback, and I generally do. And I want to be adamant about this. If I post a question, I really want you all to engage. And the reason why I want you to engage, because that feeds me knowing what's moving you, what's maybe resonating with you. I know sometimes it's not always easy. We're afraid to say something because, oh, shoot, my name's out there. If you're on social media, if you're on a place like FetLife, you can find me under the same name, enhanced dash mind. You can send me a message and let me know. There's so much of this, so many things that our community faces, and I don't want you all to try to face it alone. Not meaning that I can take it all on. My empathy only extends so far. But I really do want to hear about the things that are bothering some of us, or things that we're facing, and maybe silently facing. I know this year I'm going to be revisiting substance abuse and the lifestyle itself and how that really affects people, and going over the same words that I'm even having now with Miss Kitten in our follow up on consent framework, but consent, and all of these things that are differences within our lifestyle. Maybe how the BDSM crowd and the swingers and the polyamorous people have kind of come together and how that all affects us. All of these different things is the new content that I'm looking forward to putting out in the new year for all of you. And trying to expand on a lot of these topics that we may be feeling that need to be discussed. And it's not because I'm looking to put anybody down or make anybody feel better, but I think having conversations, it's like at the beginning of this year, my first episode out the gate for season 2 was I discussed the downside to poly relationships. And I have a lot of friends and a lot of acquaintances that I know that are into the poly lifestyle. And I'm not diminishing it. If it works for you, great. But I think that there are a lot of disingenuous people that don't understand the work that some of the people I know put in, the effort, how much they show up to getting into this, that, I discuss the downsides of it. And it is having these tough conversations because it gets us about thinking. I got responses where, I hadn't considered this. Thank you. And when I went and confronted somebody I was going to get involved with, they didn't have a plan for me or anything actionable that I could do in case, said instance arrived, and made me think twice. So in that sense, I was happy that, I helped somebody else out. I know politics for us, especially although I'm American and I'm living abroad, it's going to come up, especially as we go into the new year. But if I can say this, take it with a grain of salt. It's not the end of the planet if you feel one way and somebody feels somebody else, something completely different. Find your own peace. Take 2024 to start. Maybe let's work on some of the bridges that were damaged in our past few years. Because the people we've elected to represent us, well, maybe they haven't done the best job at leading us, right? If we have a bad dominant that's not leading a submissive in a good way, the submissive is going to falter. And I'm not saying we're submissive to the government. What I'm just giving you in the analogy here is that we don't have anybody who's really uniting us. And that goes for a lot of political parties around the world, right? Or governments around the world. They don't have a lot of, not every country has a strong leader. And there's a lot of turmoil and a lot of things, and I see a lot of these things get set out there. Some of you know about my previous life, and some of you don't. But I worked in the military, and I worked for the U.S. government. I used to do a lot of research. What doesn't matter? But there are a lot of subjects that people get fired up about, and they don't have a lot of facts. And we need to be cognizant of these things. And I'm not telling people not to have an opinion, but you have to be prepared if you're going to have an opinion and it's not either well thought out or it doesn't have all the facts, that people are going to question it. But maybe this year, when we go into 2024, it's going to be a time for us to, like I said, mend some old bridges, fix some old fences, break bread with somebody we haven't broken bread with in a long time, settle old differences. Because let me tell you, life is short. We don't know when our ticket's going to get punched. So instead of keeping all of these divides going on, maybe let's try to mend some of them and move forward. If we want to talk about healing communities, that's where it starts. It starts by a conversation. And if somebody's is unwilling to have a conversation with you, well, then you've done all you can and you know better. I want to wish to all the men out there, I want you who listen, I don't want you to feel ashamed about mental health. I want you to embrace your own mental health, and I want you to go and talk to somebody. We face a lot of stereotypical stigmas in the mental health community or the community, the societal community as a whole. But see somebody. You check on your physical health, your cars get checked, your houses get checked. We check everything but our mental health. Well, make 2024 the year you go out and get a mental health checkup. It's okay. Promise. No one's going to laugh at you. And if someone laughs at you, you send them my direction. You tell them this big sadist who's a therapist is going to have a couple words with them, or a therapist sadist, either way. For all the women out there, you are amazing. Just like the men. You're resilient, you're tough, you're strong. And when you're facing challenges, don't be afraid to open up. Neither one of you, neither party should be afraid to open up. If you're with somebody, don't be afraid to open up to your partner. It may not be easy to have conversations, but have one. Engage in active listening. Be vulnerable. Be loving. Be caring. Be compassionate. The world needs more of that from us. And God knows we do it inside of this community. It's extended to the people that we care about the most. Check in with your partners. Look after yourselves. Don't mistreat yourselves. Don't berate yourselves. Be happy of your accomplishments. Celebrate your accomplishments. For you men and women out there, celebrate them. For all of you out there, celebrate if you got an A in school, if you cracked the perfect whip, if you learned something new, if you got a promotion at work, or you just got you were just recognized. Celebrate your accomplishments. Don't diminish yourselves, all right? So, with all of that, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. I hope it's a really good year for a lot of you, no matter what your circumstances are. You got to remember it's not about the gifts, it's about being with your loved ones. And if you're not with anybody, go treat yourself. I have a client it's wonderful, so proud. They went out and spent a whole lot of money on themselves. So awesome. Treat yourself. From a good old quote from Parks and Recreation, treat yourself. It's awesome. And I also wanted to wish you a very safe and fun-filled, maybe spanking-filled or more, new year. And I will see you all in 2024 with a new season, with new content, with a new addition to the show, and so much more. Thank you all again for making the Kink Perspective something worth coming back to week after week. Until next time, everybody, and until next year, be safe and stay kinky.